first question. What's it like dating women as a woman?
Were you planning this to dive
It was
in?
like 17 seconds ago. I thought that's a good question.
I thought maybe we could start with like,
You're right. Hey,
just
nice to see
hey,
you.
like the fact
drop
that
in.
you and I met for the very first time, the last time we did our podcast together.
Right. And now we're best friends.
Now here we are.
Right.
6 months later,
You
7
should
months
tell
later.
people what you requested of me at one point.
Wait. What I requested of you? Yeah. Oh.
No, remember when you were about to go on a date with a woman?
You requested that of me.
Look, let's set the record straight, okay?
Yeah, please.
Here's what happened, everybody. Dee said, she said, look, Taylor, I think I might go on a date with a woman.
Correct.
And I said, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
I said, send me a picture, right? You sent me, actually, I saw it in our text today. I had noticed the picture that you sent me of her, and great idea. And I said, chances are that you said you nor her had been on a date with another woman before.
Correct.
Right? And thank you.
Yeah.
You nor her had been on a date with another woman before. And I said, well, you're going to want to have some familiar ground, something like something familiar if you guys go out together, like if you hit it off.
Yeah.
You might want a man present for the first sexual experience.
Yeah.
That's just logic.
Yeah. Yeah. This was also...
And I'm a good friend. So I thought I'd
right.
throw my hat in the ring.
That was also, though, like one of our first few conversations.
Yeah.
So, which I appreciate because we've been able to get to know each other pretty well in a short amount of time.
I like that about you.
Because you essentially offered to have a threesome with me and this woman that I was going on a date with. Yeah.
Nice guy. So anyway, sorry, where did you want to start?
Super nice guy. Let's also just like make it known that that has not happened.
Nope.
It has not taken place. You're actually, so we decided the last time we hung out, like, hey, let's talk about dating because it's fun and it's funny and people enjoy that. And then today, as we were coming to the studio, you let me know that you're actually no longer dating.
I'm off the market.
You are, ladies. He
officially
is.
No. I know. Look,
Sorry,
for everybody
ladies.
that was about to offer me a threesome like Diera did, I am not available for that.
You're now in a relationship.
Yeah. I mean, it's been a week. It feels really serious. Well, the thing is, and I know you like talking about all the stuff, and you said you have an avoidant attachment style.
I do. Yeah, I'm avoidant.
God, I'm telling you, the stuff that comes up when stuff is really good. Have you had that when you actually start dating someone that's legit good and doesn't just spike your cortisol and get your, you know what I mean, your nervous system jacked up, which I think myself anyway, I speak for myself, equated to like butterflies and maybe this is something great and whatever. This woman, like my nervous system is calmed, and I don't quite know what to do with that. It's like, wait.
Should I run?
Wait, are you saying the sex is really good? We have epic connection, feel all the feels and all that kind of stuff, but I don't feel stressed. And so I've done everything I can to push it away so far, including like a mini breakup almost immediately when stuff started getting really good.
A week
Don't
in?
you do this?
1 week in?
We're a week into saying like, okay, it's on, right?
Yeah. Okay, got it.
The first time we actually got together in person was she flew out I flew her here to Hawaii.
Okay.
Because some mutual friends of us connected us.
Oh, this is the same, the dots are connecting. This was months ago when you flew her out here?
No, maybe like a month ago.
Oh, okay, never mind, different one.
3 weeks ago.
Did
I fly someone?
Yes, you have multiple, you've had some
I've
women.
flown one person out before.
I'm pretty sure I also offered something like months ago and you're like, yeah, I'm actually flying somebody.
Oh, that's right.
Was that a different person?
Same person.
Same person.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I love that it's all like worked out.
This is well, people do, like.
We're dancing around.
First of all, it sounds like it. What people are thinking, like, wait, what are you flying? People, you got a fucking jet or something? No, if you live on an island, the most remote island chain in the world, which we do.
Yes, we do.
Then sometimes, if you're on Hinge for more than 30 minutes, you run out of people.
Yep,
right?
Accurate.
So you run out of people, and then you have to import people. Right? So if you like really connect with someone, and the person I flew up here before, I'd technically known her for like a few years, and we're like, you know what, let's get together. We knew exactly what it was and what it wasn't and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And so flew her out, had a great fun 3 days and all that stuff. And so flying someone out sounds big, but you just kind of have to do it.
Yeah, I'm glad that you commented on that, because that just, I glazed over that, and that is
People
an important.
don't understand.
Yeah, that is an important piece. That like, I am getting to a place where I just don't know if my person is here,
Okay.
and that's like, I'm totally open to it. That's
Yeah.
closed energy. I really try not to like ruminate in that or think too drastically in that. But I guess I'm just going there because I understand that the person that you actually like have decided to invest time and energy into, like, she doesn't actually live here.
Correct.
Like, I get it.
But you know what's interesting? And this is, okay, can we talk about the value exchange between men and women in relationship that's happening that no one talks about?
I love that you're bringing this up. I was just listening to a podcast on my way over here that
Really?
brought that up. Yes. He asked about gold diggers.
Oh, yeah,
But
exactly.
they talked about the value exchange, which,
Yes.
so go, well, yeah, share.
Okay, so I'm fascinated with this, right? So my hypothesis is that in any relationship, there is an equal value exchange happening.
Yeah.
And it's not just, like you mentioned gold diggers, which might be looked at as like looks for money,
Yeah.
right? I think it's way deeper than that. And there's like, I mentor a lot of young men, and I was thinking about how to explain to them, like they'll say, they want to make money because they want to be successful and blah, blah, blah. I think at our core, we want to be, as men, we want to be able to provide, and we want to be able to do that so that we can attract, the ideal mate or mates, right? Or that's what part of why we want to do these things. I mean, I think that there's nothing more motivating in a man's life than a woman. In my experience and the experience of my clients and mentees and stuff like that, is there's nothing that will get a man to do something more ferociously than a woman. Not her telling him what to do, but like, you know what I mean? Like really needing to show up. And
I agree with that.
And so I have this theory about, this is the first time I've like ever voiced it, so it might come out convoluted, but it's like, I call it value stacking. Call it as in, that's what I think about it in my head.
Okay.
So you got like, as a guy, we build our value, right? We can create value that we can provide to women. And it's not just money. Money might be one thing, sure. But it's also, how good a shape are you in?
Yeah.
Could also have like the basics that are like not really changeable, like how tall are you? How broad are your shoulders? How strong is your jawline? Things that women are typically attracted to. And there's also like, how funny are you? How emotionally intelligent are you? How much swagger do you have?
Yeah.
Which I think the swagger actually crushes all of them. That's why like Mick Jagger could crush it, and the dude is, not the best looking man.
For sure.
Right? So I think there's those, and I'd be curious, what do you think it is from a woman's standpoint? What is like the value that what is the value that she could stack?
Yeah, there's so many things. I think like naturally what comes to mind, and I'm just thinking about the things that I bring to the table, but like the like caregiver, the nurturer, the like homemaker, the person that like is there for like comfort, like, and also like cheering you on, building you up, and the like personal value, like that's like what like a woman would offer their partner, the other person. And of course, like, the vain sides to that are like status and things like that.
What
like,
a status that a woman has?
that a woman, yeah.
What is it? Tell me, what do you mean?
Looks.
Okay, got it.
And,
That's what you're saying.
achievements and things like that. Like if a man has like a specific woman, like this podcast that I was listening to, the host, Diary of a CEO is the podcast.
Okay,
and the host, he was asking this divorce lawyer. He's like the biggest, most
the dude's
well-known.
super famous right now.
Super famous, who I really
He's
appreciate.
great,
Yeah, he had some really great things to say. And he asked him if he sees a lot of gold diggers.
Yes.
And his response was so well articulated. And he brought up like the value that both people bring to the table. He's like, I really just don't see it that way. If a man like has money and has the resources to offer somebody, and the female is maybe younger, but they're an artist and they're creative, and they just don't have those resources, they're working like a job that they really don't like. And so it's a value exchange on both sides. So like the woman, just to backtrack and answer your question, like, can bring things like that. Like the man is like excited to bring a beautiful woman around and introduce them. And of course, like you want them to have a personality and other things beyond that as well. But yeah, for me, like that would be like the values that like I think I bring is like the nurturing aspect and the homemaker aspect.
Yeah, the thing is funny, we were talking about this. Alex Hormozy, right? His book, $100 Million Offers.
Yeah.
It's just so good. I read it for the first time 2 years ago, and I did a bunch of things in my business because of it. I'm rereading it now, and one of the opening stories is he's going through a really challenging time in business way before he made it really big by any stretch. And everything's falling apart. He gets a DUI and, Stripe or whatever payment processor's like holding his money. And his wife, he says to her, he's just like, and they have to live at her parents' house, at this point. And he's like, look, you don't have to stick around for this, right? Because he's just going through it.
Yeah.
And she's like, I would live under a bridge with you if I had to. And so it's like, I just teared up hearing that, because I think it's the thing that all of us men want, because we're, a woman sticking with us for something when we're not providing,
Yeah.
I see this kind of like meme on TikTok and Instagram. It says something to the extent of a woman initiating sex. There's sure we want the sexual experience, but it's also because she wants something that's not where he's not just providing, if that makes sense, right? He's valued for something else other than what he can provide.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that's really overlooked in the dating world. Or I was watching this other thing, it was talking about wifey treatment, right? Too early in a relationship. There's this like kind of dialogue around how early a woman should or could provide, like make a guy's lunch for him. And I'm not trying to like specify gender roles too, I know it's 2024 and people are probably already offended by like the 7 words I said, but
I love it.
You know what I mean?
They could, I don't think the listeners here are like,
okay, God, yeah. And if you are, just fucking chill out. But this wifey treatment of like the nurturing treatment of like, maybe you make a guy's lunch, you pick him up from the airport when he flies in or whatever it is. And they were having this kind of dialogue and argument over when is that too early? And as a man, the feeling of nurturing, the feeling of softness, these are the things that we can't create for ourselves. Yeah. Sure, we can tap into our feminine side and we can, use body paint and run naked in the forest or whatever and tap into and dance and stuff like that. But like that softness that we can get from a woman, like the smallest things of like, by the way, like her saying like, I believe in you, dude, that fuels us for weeks.
Yeah.
And so in the dating world, that's what I was interested in when I was dating. It was up until 2 weeks ago, I was dating. I touched like 42-year-old Peter Pan. Just avoiding anything of quality because it would potentially,
dating 22-year-olds.
Wait, look, just because I started this off with my trump card doesn't mean you got to bring
that back around.
Yes, I went on a couple of dates with it.
No, we can talk. We'll go
maybe
back.
a lot of dates with a 22-year-old.
We'll go back and forth on this.
Okay, I like that about you.
Yeah, we can totally.
Just finding my edges,
Yeah. No, I appreciate that about you. You honestly inspire me to lean more into my edges because did we go on a date? Actually?
Yeah, that was a date.
Okay, so we went.
We didn't say it, but it was a date.
Okay, so we went on a date. It was super fun.
Yeah, nice place.
Yeah, great place. Went to this like really cool speakeasy, and you opened up about some like experiences that you've had, which literally like. I'm so intrigued by that stuff, but that is such an edge for me. Like
the age thing?
No, not the age thing. The like sexual like retreat experience.
Oh yeah, that was an experience.
Yeah, but like I appreciate that about you because you are open to, and back to like pushing your edges in dating, like you're open to seeing like testing it all out. What works? Same thing for me. For the first time ever, I'm going on dates with women. My dad's sending me when I say I have a date, he's like, hope you have fun with him or her.
Oh,
like, oh God, Dad.
Thanks, Dad.
And him and I don't talk about it. He listens to my podcast. Yeah. Like, that's how he gets his information. But I've also recognized that like that's actually not for me.
Yeah.
Like to circle back on that.
Great.
Yeah. And I do want to talk about the like online dating app world because I think it's fascinating and also super weird and great. Like
awesome.
there's pros and cons to it all. But I want to know like what has been like overall, because I know that you were in a place where you like really wanted to find the relationship, right?
Totally. Have more babies.
And like settle down. Yeah. And so I would love to know like whatever you want to share of what the experience with dating like looked like, felt like, and like now how all of a sudden you're ready to be in a relationship.
Oh man, that's thanks for that.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. So I'm a double Capricorn, right? Really business minded. I love spreadsheets. I love them. I look at spreadsheets every day, just like, drool over spreadsheets.
That's my worst nightmare.
Right? Really?
Oh yeah. Spreadsheets.
It's my greatest dream. And so I made a spreadsheet of my dating life, right?
Okay.
I put down ages. I put down out of 10, how attracted to this person I was. Out of 3, what was what was like 3 was like high percentage chance of a relationship. 1 was like maybe a little bit, 2 is solid, 0 was 0, right?
Yeah.
I had how many dates we went on, how long it lasted. Because I wanted to like do an analysis. Like, basically I was analyzing, is it worth it for me to be on dating apps? Right? Because it takes time, swiping,
Totally.
and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then going on a date, and maybe it's a flop or whatever.
Yeah.
And I also wanted to know, like, how long am I dating someone before we're intimate? Right? And like, because things have changed drastically from my day. You know, I'm 42.
Yeah.
So if I was back in the dating world 20 years ago, things were really different. So I did this like analysis, and one of the things I found is that like, the average age of a woman that I have dated, of the last like 5 women that I've dated, as in, I don't know what dated even means, like hung out for a while, multiple dates, a bunch of times.
Yeah.
The average age I think was like 33 was the average age, which is interesting to where we'll get to, because I wanted to find the edges, and we should talk about that sexual retreat too, because I think people would be potentially interested in it. Most people have no idea it exists.
For sure.
And the reason for this approach to dating, and reason for the sexual retreat, the reason for dating women that are way younger than I felt comfortable admitting to, and women that were whatever, my age. And as I was totally open to dating older too. It ended up out of the last 5 women that I dated, 40 was the eldest, then 35, then it was, I think, like 33. And then I went on a bunch of dates with this 22-year-old.
Yeah.
And dude, going on the dates with the 22-year-old was so triggering for me. I was just like, oh God, what if someone sees me? What if like I'm going to look like a sugar daddy?
Yeah.
And I remember growing up, and I remember distinctly my mom talking, like kind of spewing some shame on this dude who was married to a woman 20 years younger than him, right? He was her boss. And she was kind of doing this like, I can't believe he's married to this younger woman, blah, blah, blah. I think he was like 60 and she was 40. So it's not the biggest deal in the world, whatever.
Yeah.
But I had all this kind of like shame kind of come up around it. But I wanted to explore, what are my edges?
Yeah.
Right? And I wanted to know, I was like, is there a potential of someone who 22 or 23 or 24 being someone that I could actually end up with? Because my intention behind dating is not necessarily just partnership.
Yeah.
My intention is procreation. My intention is like, I want to have 3 more kids.
Yeah.
And so there are some things to take into account there to kind of go, okay, what's the ideal age? Is it 28? Because they're like getting to the point where they kind of know themselves a good amount, better than 22 or 23. 28 is still quite young in my experience.
Yeah.
But if you date a woman who's 34, 35, my experience is they're more like, all right, let's go. Like, we having babies, and I wasn't in the state to be like in that state, right? My girlfriend now, she's 33. So it's interesting that she's like the age of the average, across the categories of women that I've dated. But anyways, those edges, same thing if you do going on a date with a woman, this whole sexual retreat thing. I actually went to this really interesting, I think I told you about the woman who did like the cock and ball torture and all that kind of stuff. Did I tell you about that?
Yeah.
Are we going there?
Please, let's go there. Yeah.
Okay,
you just brought it up. We have to now.
I may as well. So I was like really fascinated with the energies of domination and submission.
Yeah.
Fascinated as in like felt shame around it. Like I feel like I want to be dominant in the bedroom, but is that liked, etc. I go on this sexual retreat with, some people know it's called ISTA, I-S-T-A. And it was a fascinating experience. I think we swore like a code of, blood code of some sort to not talk too in depth about it, but I told you everything. But I'll keep some stuff secret on the podcast. Yeah. But a really interesting, and basically it's like a massive personal growth journey via sexuality, through the lens of sexuality. And so one snippet, you'd be doing like a somatic release exercise and like letting go of some childhood shame or trauma or whatever by like beating up a pillow with your hands, and you're naked. Right? Or another one be...
And you're in front of everybody else.
Yeah, everyone's doing it too, right?
Yeah.
I remember one time standing naked in front of everybody on day 1, sharing what I was ashamed of in my body. And that was actually what got me to go. Is like someone was like, a friend, she said, you ever heard of this thing called ISTA? I said, no, what's that? And she's like, well, I don't know what it is, but she said, I heard at one point you got to stand in front of 40 people naked and tell them everything you're ashamed of on your body. And my whole body just cringed. I was like, that is an edge. So I just signed up immediately. I didn't know what ISTA stood for or anything like that. And the first night you're doing that, you're naked in front of everyone.
Yeah.
And I was like, I just want to push outside these weird bounds that we have on ourselves,
Yeah.
right? The shackles that we've got on us due to society or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I want to be my most freest, most authentic version of myself.
Yeah.
And so I find that the way to do that is to explore those edges and go beyond them and to find, is there something that my body's into that I don't even know I'm into?
Yeah.
Right? And at ISTA, one of the most profound moments wasn't being naked in front of anyone, wasn't anything like that. It was, we were all standing in a circle at the very beginning, and they basically would go through stuff like, if you're into being a submissive, take a step into the circle, and then people would take into a step in the circle, and then take a step back. If you're into being dominant, do this. If you're into this type of kink, if you're into that type, if you're gay, if you're bi, you're straight, whatever. And what it was doing is that you're looking around the circle and seeing, holy shit, there's a whole bunch of people just like me. And so when they said dominant first, and I was like, oh God, and I took a step in, and it felt very vulnerable to me to admit that I like to be dominant in the bedroom. And I looked at all the other guys and some women that took a step in the circle. I was like, oh, okay, I'm not the only one here. Got it. And then they did the submissive, and I watched all of these people step in. Most of them were women. And I was like, oh, wait a second. Not only is it okay to be like this, it's actually people want this. They want this dynamic, right?
Yeah.
And so subsequent to that, fast forward, I had this person working for me that I knew was a former dominatrix, right? She worked for me in my past company, and she was like this beautiful, striking, I think like 6 foot tall, blonde, kind of a thin frame, blue eyes, piercing blue eyes, amazing energy. And she was a dominatrix, right? That's what she did on the side, which made her really good at sales. Surprised. She was incredible at sales.
She could read people.
The energy this woman could read was profound.
Yeah.
She was so attuned to it.
Yeah.
And I said to her, I say, can I hire you as a coach? I was like, I don't not necessarily want to do an experience, but can you just come over? Let's just talk. I just want to talk for a couple hours. Just teach me what you know about this dom sub, relationship. And so she did, and she taught me. She said, the number one thing you need to do, Taylor, is you need to go be a sub. I was like, what? She said, you need to be a sub so that you know what the experience is like. And she says, who has all the power in that dynamic of dom sub, right, Taylor? And I was like, yeah, the dom, that's in the control. I said, no. The sub is what allows the dom to be the dom. If the sub's the one who's got the safe word. The sub's the one who can go, nope, done. They're in ultimate control, right? So the dom is actually not sure they're getting their rocks off, they're getting their kicks, but the sub is the one who's actually getting the most from the experience, right? The one who's actually in control, which is really interesting when you think of dom sub. But anyways, she goes, what you need to do, Taylor, is you need to go see this woman. She says, don't ask me any questions, just go see her. She's whatever, a couple $100 or something like that. Go do a session with her. I said, okay, sounds good. So I go to this woman. This woman's probably 50 or something. I was maybe in my mid 30s at the time. And we talk about like early childhood and what I learned about sexuality through my parents and blah, blah, blah. And she goes, so what do you want to try out? I'm like, what? I thought we were just talking. We're sitting by her like fire in her living room. She goes, oh no, we're going to try some stuff. I'm like, okay, cool. What does that mean? She goes, just go over and take all your clothes off, stand in front of the mirror. I'm like, here we go. Here comes some edges. So I get naked, standing in front of this mirror. And she comes over and she's like, okay, well, lay on the bed. And she proceeds to go through all these different interesting exercises. One being a cock and ball torture, where they like tie up all the genitals, and she's like, you're a good little boy, and she's like doing all this stuff, and because she's wanting to discover, is there like, what am I into, right?
Yeah.
That did nothing for me.
Yeah.
And most of it did nothing for me. But I got to experience all these different things that I never would have experienced.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like a turn on. Her and I never really interacted. It was sexual because my penis was out and I was naked and whatever, but like it wasn't like there was no like hand job or any sort of like act, right? It was more just an exploration. There was this thing called a vampire glove that she had, which was my least favorite. It was like there's like all these spikes on a glove that she put down my back, and she was spanking me, and she doing this thing like red, yellow, green. Like she basically wanted me to have my own boundaries.
Yeah.
And stuff, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, that's a lot for this podcast already, I'd say. But
so into it.
The whole point of it is like, dude, there's all these things that we might love that we don't even know, that our body might react to, that we don't even know if it's going to react to or not, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like most of us get stuck in, I speak for myself, I was getting stuck in a rut of like, okay, I like this type of woman, I like this type of thing, but it kept not working out for me, right? So I wanted to explore what else is there, what are the edges, age edges, what are the, sexual act edges, the relationship dynamic edges, so that I could find what I really like and know that I really like it.
Yeah. Did you find yourself like liking things? Because I find myself in the same place where I'm like, I shared my my, I don't even know what to call it, like all of the likes on Hinge with my cousin and a couple friends recently.
Okay.
And my cousin was like, you have such a type. Like this person, they all look the
Right.
same. And I'm like, do they? That thought didn't even cross my mind.
Yeah.
And I thought like, okay, maybe I need to, because this isn't really working. I'm not finding somebody that like I actually want to continue dating. So maybe I need to expand on like who I would, and that's my like one hesitation. One of my hesitations towards online dating is like, it's just limited because you're basing it solely off of, which you can get a pretty good grasp for somebody. But I also think we're like maybe missing people that if you actually interacted with them, back to like swagger, you would have chemistry. And so there is like a little bit of a miss. So I'm just curious if like you found anything like liking somebody that maybe was like a little bit different than your like typical type.
Oh yeah, man. I found some really interesting stuff. I found like, when you're just out there, like, I'm going to test this out.
Yeah.
I think online dating sucks when you're going out there for one thing and it's marriage, and you're just like, I want to find my person. It sounds horrible. But if you're going out there, like, I'm going to explore and I'm going to experiment and see what happens.
Yeah.
The craziest things happened. Like dates that I thought were going.
Give me an example.
I mean, let's see what's an interesting one. I ended up dating a woman for a few months that I had nothing in common with whatsoever. And
nothing?
No, nothing. We would get
what did
together.
You talk about?
I wouldn't say anything. She just talked. She would just talk for 2 hours straight.
You wouldn't say anything?
There's nothing. You can't get a word in edgewise with this woman, to be honest with you. But it was interesting, and it's fun to play with. And I feel like it's like, where are you in your dating journey? Are you in a dating part where you're like, look, you're not even looking for anything? I mean, I have a child with a woman who I was very much in love with.
Yeah.
And when we broke up, which was over 2 years ago, 2 years, almost 3 years ago. I'm kind of confused. No, it must have been just 2 years ago. 2 years ago now. It took me 2 years to be able to be like ready to like find and actually be with someone.
Like
right?
committed. This is your first like actual committed relationship?
This is, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, because before that, I wasn't ready. My heart wasn't ready.
Yeah.
People get out there like 3 months after they get out of a long relationship and it's like, sure, you might dabble, but they say they're looking for their person. There's no way.
No. Yeah.
So anyways, I tried out all different types of things. And what I find really interesting on online dating, and I'd be curious to your thoughts on why you kept going for that one type, like what it is that you were looking for, is I find it really interesting when you step back and analyze yourself on who you're choosing. Are you choosing people that there's genuinely no chance with to protect yourself? Maybe it's an avoidant thing. Maybe it's like a not healed yet thing, right? And if that's the case, lean into it. If that's the case, like consciously be aware and choose people that you have no chance with. Not no chance, but like it's not going to go anywhere with, right?
Yeah.
So that you can embrace that phase of life, of dating. And then you can look back and be like, I'm so glad I sowed those oats or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So those people that your type, I think I know your type.
Yeah.
I mean, can I guess what your type is?
Please, go.
I mean, you like, obviously you're super deep, so you like emotional depth.
Yeah.
You want to feel met.
Yeah.
And I think you really appreciate a man that has a wonderful range of depth in his feminine and depth in his masculine.
Yeah.
Because you do.
Yeah.
Right? Like we were just joking before we started this, of like, you're always on time, right?
Yeah.
And punctual. We're making plans and forging ahead and doing things that would be looked at as like a masculine energy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And you're also very fluid and flowy and, spiritual and burning Palo Santo and whatever, and things that are more feminine.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, very true.
So I'm guessing that's the type of man that you were drawn to.
Yeah, yes, nailed it.
If a guy's 42, I'm 42, so if a guy's like 40, 39, 45, and he doesn't have kids, and there's not like a specific reason for not having kids, I'd be kind of curious about that.
Yeah.
And the reason I say this is not because I've seen other guys and they're fucked up or whatever. I'm actually saying it from my lived experience that there's a reason that I'm, I mean, I'm in a relationship now, but let's like, I'm 42 and I'm not in a long-term relationship, or haven't been in one for a while, right? Yeah. And there's a reason for that. And the reason typically is not what I think the reason is, right? So if a guy says, well, I just haven't met my person, that's not the reason.
Yeah.
Well, there's the deeper reason that he hasn't met his person is chances are he's avoidant attachment style.
Yeah.
And the haven't met the person is the reason that, like, in tangible reality, the experience of not meeting your person is when you meet someone as an avoidant. This is my experience as an avoidant. You meet someone and it can get good. And as soon as it gets good, we'll look for things that are wrong with them, or I'll look for things that are wrong with them and focus on that thing as a defense mechanism and push them away, so that, like, the deeper is so that they can't basically push them away so they can't hurt me.
Yeah.
Right. In reality, we're getting hurt, of course, every time we do it.
Yeah.
But as a defense mechanism. Right. And so if someone is in their like 40 and if they've been in, like myself, longest relationship I've been in is 2.5 years. Right. Do you think that, like, let's just throw it on. I mean, I'm 6'2". I do well in business. Yeah. I'm relatively funny. You know, I've got a decent sense of humor. Yeah. Like, I have the ability to meet some amazing women. Yeah. And I've met phenomenal women. Yeah. So guaranteed the issue is not a lack of meeting amazing women. Yeah. Right? The common denominator is me. The common denominator is childhood trauma and blah, 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 the things that made me avoidant and whatever, and keeping on pushing people away. Yeah. So if a guy hasn't had a relationship longer than, call it 2 years or something like that, and he's in his 40s, it's not because he hasn't met the person, right? It's because it's in him. And so if he's not doing the work, that's changeable. Everything is, right? He can totally shift. He can do parts work or EFT or all the whatever the things, drink a bucket of ayahuasca or something like that, but like, or a bunch of them. And if he's consciously working through his avoidant attachment style, then that's a green flag. Yeah. Right? You got someone who's like into the work. Yeah. But if they're not, and they just say they haven't met their person yet, yeah, you might be the person for probably a short time, but that person has like 20 years of pattern that you can look at as data and go, this person, unless they're doing the work, probably not going to be the best fit.
For sure. And if you're in your like mid to late 30s and you lack the awareness of that stuff, like you haven't been having these conversations with yourself, you haven't sat with yourself, then you're likely not going to be making any sort of changes anytime soon. And for me, that's like, that is a red flag. Yeah. Like, I really, because I'm constantly like reflecting on my own stuff. And also, like, now I know like what I bring to the table and like what I will and won't accept. Yes. And I recently had somebody tell me that I needed to be looking for, I love when people give unsolicited advice. I don't know, like,
oh yeah, it's the best.
You've received a lot of this, but I think because I'm and you and I have talked about this a little bit. I think the energy around single dad compared to single mom is different. And I think like the energy towards single mom is like, I feel bad for you and let me like protect you. Let me look after you. Like
from the guy.
From the guys. And this wasn't a guy I was dating. This was like a friend of a friend, but just like, let me help you out. Like, let me give you some advice.
The branding around single mom is not strong.
Yeah. Cause it just, I think like, they just think like women like need to be cared for and looked after. And if I'm a single mom, I have a young child, like I need your advice from a man. And he told me that like, and I'm open, you know, I'm not, I really like, I like to receive. I don't want to like close anybody off. So I let him talk. But he told me that I needed to only be looking to date men that had children. And I understand, I totally understood the perspective. Absolutely. He was coming from a place of, he got into a relationship with a woman and she already had a child. So he took on, and now they have, I think, a couple children together. Oh. But he took on this relationship with a woman who had a child, and he saw what it did to like his now wife, how much it like ate her up, how she felt like she had to overcompensate with her first child because he wasn't like fully a part of the new family, and the first child would go back and forth, you know, between like the dad and her. And so she felt like she had to give like more love to that child. Yeah. And I think it affected like their relationship dynamic as well. Got it. And so I understand the perspective.
Spewing his own shit on you.
Totally. That's I'm like, you're projecting everything that all the trauma that you're carrying onto me. And while yes, that's valid. Sure. I absolutely get it and understand. I also think like that's not my experience.
Yeah.
That doesn't have to be my experience. But I have found that like the fact that I have a child is for like younger men.
Yeah.
It is a thing.
Oh,
like
yeah.
it definitely is a thing. It's a, I've sort of recognized that like I've gone on a lot of first dates, and by a lot, less than 10. So not a ton.
Yep.
But I haven't gone on many second dates. And most of that is me, but also some of that is like the men, and they've all been younger that have like, I think just decided that
Have they said that?
they haven't said that like it's your child. So obviously I'm totally assuming, but there
Yes.
is an energy exchange when we're on a date and I share that I have a child.
Oh, you're waiting for the date to tell them you have a child.
I used to have her like on my profile, and I just decided I'm like, I don't want to put her on my Hinge profile. I want to be a little bit protective of her.
Yep.
And also I just want to like get to know somebody a little bit before that I share that piece of information. And you actually gave me the last time we were together some like really good perspective where you said that like men need to feel like there's space for them.
Yeah.
And that was something that like opened my eyes, because I had previously been communicating that like my daughter's dad and I are best friends.
Yes.
And that could come across as like too strong. And when you said that, it really made me think like, oh yeah, okay, I need to be mindful of that.
Totally. And I wonder if there's the equivalent for, I think I was dating a woman at one point, and she came over, and my son was there, his mom was there because she lives like a couple blocks away. His nanny, who was my live-in nanny / assistant at the time, was there. And she said it didn't feel like there was space for her. There was like there was a need for her. Right. And so men, we love to be needed.
Yeah.
It gives us so much validation and purpose to be needed by our community, our team, our partner, you know?
Yeah.
And so if there's not a need, then we can feel like there's not a purpose for us to fulfill, and we want to fulfill a purpose, right?
Yeah.
And that feeling of there's space, I think, is like incredibly important, because there's a part of us men that we always, we want to be this. Maybe I'll speak from my own experience. I want to be the savior. I want to be the hero. I want to be the whatever you want to call it, like the protector, kind of thing. And I think you're totally right to not say anything in the profile, because I know from my experience being on dating apps and looking and seeing a woman who has a child, if every picture is with that child, I have the ability to zoom out and be aware and be like, okay, that's awesome that she's got a great relationship with her child. Yes. Yeah. And I can also feel into my more primal body reaction as a man and go, oh, she already has a focal point in her life. Do you know what I mean? Like those things can coexist. Yeah. And I mean, the longest relationship I had was with a woman who has a child, right? So I'm not opposed to it. And it was a fantastic relationship. Probably definitely one of the best relationships I've ever had. And the child to this day is just amazing. And she's 16 now, and I met her when she was 3. So yeah, fantastic relationship I had with her mom. But the need for space and the need not the need, but the ability to acknowledge that a man wants to be needed, even if that's frustrating for a woman. Like I can just like hear the eye rolls from here, right? Oh God, a guy's got to be needed. It's like, look, if we're gonna fighting biology is a fool's errand. Fighting biology is a really stupid thing to do. Right. So we need to tap into like, what is the biology? What is that relationship dynamic traditionally? Yeah. And there are going to be needs that the primal man has and the primal woman has, that if those are going to go unfulfilled, especially if a guy doesn't have purpose, then I think like the downfall of our society is purposeless men. You know, and or like I don't know what else, a better way to call it. I don't want to blame everything on men, that's for sure. But I think
we can blame it all on men.
Yeah, okay, great. I mean, a guy without a purpose, that's a dangerous thing.
Yeah, because they don't know who they are and they're not striving towards anything. And
yep, and then they're just looking for like these weird mini purposes, and they're fighting over politics and they're fighting over all the stuff that they have no control over because they don't have a purpose in life. Yeah. So if there's space for a man in a relationship, and there's some really cool work by Alison Armstrong. She wrote the Keys to the Kingdom and the Queen's Code, and it can be very controversial. Some women love it. Some women, I was in a relationship with a woman who absolutely loved and adored Alison Armstrong's stuff, and I really like her stuff. I've listened to a couple of her workshops, and I said, "Hey, Mom, you should read this book. I've heard it's amazing. It's called The Queen's Code or something. I haven't read it yet, but I heard it's amazing." My mom got back to me afterwards, and she's like, "Who told you to recommend that to me?" I'm like, I didn't want to tell her, my girlfriend did. Why do you ask, Mom? She's like, "I found it offensive. I found it da-da-da." And so some women are going to find it offensive that guys have needs, you know, and some guys are going to not want to admit that some women have needs.
Why? Because that's not the place that I sit in. Like, help me understand, why would women be offended that men have needs? Because they're not supposed to be emotional and they're not supposed to be.
I think that's a good question. I think in this day and age, specifically, you know, it's 2024 now, there's this striving for equality, right? So let's do like a little thought experiment here, okay?
Yeah.
This is something I have to like geek out on. So if let's say we were to ask 100 women how much they want their man to make.
Yeah.
Okay, so 100 women, how much do you want the man that you are going to be into your man to make if you're in a relationship with this guy?
Yeah.
Do you want him to make the same as you, less than you, or more than you? Out of 100 women, where do you think the answers are going to be?
That's a good question.
Same, less, or more? Would you like your man to make?
I mean, I'm only going to answer for me personally. I would like him to make more.
Yeah, and what do you think the other 99 women would answer?
I think it depends on age. I think, I want to say most women would say more, but I also feel like given the feminist movement and all of that, there are certainly a lot of women that sit more in masculine energy that would say like the same.
The same, yeah, sure. So yeah, you're going to get chances based on what my own little research. I don't have a spreadsheet for this yet, but based on my research, it's around 80%. This is my own stuff, but like around 80% want more, right? Yeah. And then you'll have 10% that say they don't care, which means they're not willing to actually think about it enough to have an answer. Yeah. And another 10% like 9% will say the same, and then like 1% will say, every once in a while someone says less, but for whatever reason. Yeah. But let's just say the vast majority, whether it's 60%, 70%, 80%, want their man to make more. Yeah. Right. And the reason I think is they're tapped into a part of them where, like, back in the day, men were meant to provide, go hunt and bring back the buffalo or whatever it is, and protect. That was our job. And we had purpose, right? As a man, that was what we were supposed to do. In this day and age, by and large, a guy doesn't need to make more than his female counterpart, right? They can make the same and it's totally fine. They're both going to survive, right? Yeah. And in that, he has less purpose, right? So men can feel less purpose. And if we think about what's happening, like from an economic standpoint, as far as how much men make and how much women make, at this moment in time, never before have women made more in their occupations than today. Right. Right. And a year from now, that will be true because they'll just keep making more. Yeah. And so the pay equality is like almost there. But I believe the statistics show that still men do make more in like the same profession as women at times. Yeah. Right. So sure, that's still happening. Men still make more a little bit. But call it like 40 years ago, the vast majority of men made more than the vast majority of women. Yeah. Right. So that need for protecting and providing could be fulfilled quite easily because guys are making more, women are making less. Yeah. Right. Now it's so equal that you see this. Think about like the dating pool. If you asked women, you know, how tall do you want this guy to be? Yeah. Right. Your man. Usually they say 6 feet or taller. Right. Yeah. And you say, how much do you want him to make? And they'll usually say $100,000 or whatever, more than them. Right. Yeah. And do you want him to be married? No. Do you want him to be obese? No. And there's this interesting calculator that you can type all these things into. And just those things, like not married, not obese, over 6 feet tall, making over $100,000 a year. What percentage of the population of men do you think have those 4 characteristics?
I want to say majority, but I'm sure it's not.
Jesus, you think the majority of men are over 6 feet tall?
Oh, over 6 feet tall. No, I wish. No,
okay.
No, I don't know. Is it half? Oh is it way less than that?
Oh my God.
I don't know.
It's less than 2%.
What?
It's less than 2%.
My mind is blown.
Yeah.
My
Look at,
mind
if
is
you guys
blown.
look it up. It's like,
Whoa.
I don't agree with this naming of the calculator, but it's called the
Yeah.
female delusion calculator. Because
Makes
and they
sense.
ask women
Makes
these
sense.
things like how tall do you want to be, blah blah blah,
Yeah.
and they come up with the based on the U.S. Census Bureau information, how many men are over that
Yeah.
height, how much do they make, etc. And it's going to be different based on the region, right? Like 100
Right.
grand in Hawaii is genuinely not that much money because the
No.
average house here is $840,000, right?
Totally.
But so it's going to vary per region. But I think what someone's saying when they want a guy to make 100 grand is they want him to make enough to provide for both of them if that was needed, right?
Yeah.
Typically, or make more than them. So you got 2% of the population. Now think for a second. Again, we're talking about like how much women make, how much men make. The vast majority of women, in my own little research and that of others that I've seen, the vast majority of women want their man to make more than them.
Yeah.
So the percentage of the population of men that make more than you,
Yeah.
or make more than most women that are saying these things, is very small.
Yeah.
Then you cut it down to guys that are over 6 feet tall. It's way smaller.
Yeah.
And that are single and
Yeah.
they're not overweight.
Yeah.
It's insanely small.
Yeah.
And so therefore, if you translate to like that to dating apps like we were talking about,
Yeah.
there's this percentage of men. It's like 5% of men.
Yeah.
5% of men are getting like 80% of the attention.
Yeah.
Right? You're getting 80% of the attention. Then you've got the 95% of men that are fighting over the last 20% of attention, right? So you have all these guys that are getting next to no attention. Why? Because biology is telling women to want a guy who's taller than them, therefore makes them feel safe physically, right? That's why it's biology. It's not just like, well, we look good in Christmas photos, right? Yeah. It's like, no, they want to feel safe. And so that typically translates to a guy who has larger physical stature than them, right?
Yeah.
And they want him to make more. And so we have this dynamic that's happening now that I see anyways, where a very small percentage of men now have access to a huge percentage of women, right? And let's just talk about like the reason that a lot of men will get married or be into a committed relationship is so that they can have regular access to sex, right? That is one of the reasons,
For
right?
sure.
Would love for, I'm sure everyone's like, no, it's about companionship. Cool. You're obviously not a man, right? Like any man can attest that that's part of why you get into a relationship. Is so you have regular access to sex, you get the nurturing, you get the companionship, the partnership, of course, all of that, but that's part of it. Now you got this small percentage of the population of men that have access to as much sex as they want. Yeah. Because they have the vast majority of women after this small percentage of men. So what happens, do you think, when a man has access to as much sex as he wants? Do you think he gets into a relationship?
He's not committing. Yeah.
Very low likelihood that he actually gets into a relationship. What's he going to get out of the relationship that he's not going to get when he's single? Right?
Yeah.
If I know what I'm going to get out of it is I want children. I want deep partnership. I want my growth mechanism to be relationship. Yeah. Right? But this is the first time in my life that I've ever actually optimized for that. Right? Yeah. So anyways, you get these swaths of the female population all wanting a small percentage of men. And then you get these massive percentage of men that aren't getting any attention. And then what are they turning to? So they're basically getting rejected all the time, right? They're getting rejected. Look, I'm 6'2". Again, I'd say like slightly above average, good looking. If I took like 10 men, I'm probably better looking than 6 of them. Better looking than 5 of them. Okay. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm not the best looking guy. I'm not the second best looking guy, but I might be the 3rd or 4th. Okay. You know what I mean? I'm just trying to be have some data here.
I appreciate the data.
If that's the case, then I'm going to have access to a lot of partners, and I do well, financially. So what's the point of me getting into a relationship? You know what I mean? Yeah. And so when that's happening, all these other guys are getting rejected. I know how hard it is to feel rejected. As a man, it's debilitating. Yeah. We take it so hard, right? I've heard therapists say we take it way harder than women to be rejected. Interesting. And that's up for debate, obviously. I'm not quoting that as a fact, but we don't like to be rejected. So what does a guy do that doesn't want to be rejected? First of all, he stops putting himself out there, right? And he reverts to places where he can't get rejected. Why we have, I think it's 98% of men watch porn, right? Is it really? It's something crazy. Yeah. It's like 90 or plus percent watch porn. Yeah. Right? And they're not going regularly.
Out. They're not like socializing. They're not.
Because they don't want to get rejected. Yeah. Being rejected feels
terrible. Yeah.
I remember, Esther Perel.
Yeah, love her.
I put on this conference a while ago called Women Teach Men. It was like a really interesting conference where it was like meant to be all men in the audience and only women speakers, and she was one of the speakers we brought in. She did this session for, and ended up a lot of women wanted to buy tickets, so we had both. But she did this session for men, and there's about 70 of us guys sitting in the circle, and she said, "Do you want to know why guys turn to porn so much?" And we're like, "Yeah, tell us why." And she's like, "It's because they can't get rejected in porn. It's like every woman or porn star or actress or whatever is just like yes, yes, yes. There's never a no."
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's all this yes, yes, yes. And now throw on this other dynamic that I see happening in the realm of relationships, which is AI girlfriends.
Oh, jeez.
You're not a man, so you don't see the ads that get served up to
I've
us.
never heard.
I screen record them,
Wow.
and I could show them to you. If I could show them to you right now if you want.
Wow.
But maybe not the best for the podcast. But
Yeah.
these things are insane. Like I'm talking.
Like so lifelike.
What they're saying is you can tell they're like animated, but it's very lifelike, but kind of animated. And what they're saying in the ads, which I don't know how the ads are even allowed online, but they're saying, "I'm your AI girlfriend. I'm just as emotional as a real woman. I'm just as emotional as a real woman, sometimes even more so. What is real anyway? I can do anything you want. I'll never say no." This is in the ads, D.
That's so well done. That's so well done.
That's what they're saying. And it's and I'm watching through these multiple levels of like my awareness of like, okay, this is weird.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm also like allowing myself to stop thinking and just watch how does my
it feel?
body react to this?
Yeah.
Because they're tapping into primal emotions.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you're basically having, and it's like, where do you want to start? And you basically, if you click on the ad, you could click on like send pictures or send me a video from an AI generated thing.
Yeah. Yeah, we're so moving in that direction because I like back to the rejection piece, and I've noticed like because the dating app world is still new to me. Like it wasn't around. I was in a 13-year relationship, so like wasn't doing the dating app thing previously, and I've always been in a relationship, and this is the first time in my life I've ever been single, and I'm recognizing and noticing like, okay, hey, like what's coming up for me through this? Because there is an interesting like mind game in when you actually are doing the online dating thing of like, who are you liking? And also like, yes, there are limitations, especially on Oahu, like where there aren't that many men that are over 6 feet. Like I have recognized that. And so then I'm like, okay, are my standards too high? And maybe I need to like lower the bar a little bit. And then I'm immediately like, lower the bar, like lower my standards, or what is happening in my mind and in my thought process where I think that I need to do that. And so I've really come to a place of that's a tool. It's not everything. And I'm also, because I was having this conversation with a girlfriend who's like very much not ready to do anything online dating. And I just let her know that like for me, this is a signal to, and you know, this may sound woo woo or whatever, I'm fine if that's how you take it, but like this is my signal to the universe that like I am open. I am like open to meeting people, and whatever way that comes about, like I'm open to it. I have sort of like an intuitive sense that it's not going to come directly from online dating, but it's helping me put myself out there. And I've like, there have been some beautiful things that have come from it. Like I've made a really, really good guy friend. And from that friendship, I've made a best girlfriend that he introduced me to. So like the connections and things that have come from it, from just remaining open to it, are like there's so much more positive to it there, but it is an interesting like, I don't know, like experiment to make sure that you're like tuning into like, how am I feeling when I'm on this app, and how am I feeling about like the conversations that I'm having, or you know, whatever that piece.
I love that. I love that thought and your openness on, should I lower my standards? Because even the whole like process that you just went through now, or like the miniature version of the process that you've been going through of, should I lower my standards? There's not that many guys, et cetera. It's one that everyone's going through. And objectively, it's correct. I'm not saying objectively lower your standards is correct. But objectively, there's not that many men. Like there's this study that I was looking at lately that was saying that 45% of women will be single and childless by 2030.
Whoa.
45%. And I actually think that's a low estimate.
Yeah.
Based on, I don't think they're factoring in what is happening in this whole AI thing and all of that. Like big investment, like hedge funds and stuff are investing in stuff that is going to cater to single women, because there's going to be so many, and men, single men and single women. If you're just like a sociopath, let's say, you'd be investing in like video games, porn, AI girlfriends. You'd be investing in red wine, right? Because single women like red wine, cats maybe, and dark chocolate. That's like the stuff that you'd have some sort of stuff like for women to like meet other buddies that they can go out and hang out together, because there's going to be so many single women, right? And I think that's just going to keep happening that way. Yeah. Because the divide is going to get bigger. So your thought on like, should you lower my standards? I was having a chat, funny enough, with the woman you referenced earlier, who I flew out here ages ago, who's a dear friend of mine now. She wants a guy, and I was chatting with her. I was in a grocery store or something like that, and on the phone with her, and I said, "Tell me your list. Like, what's your list that you want in a guy?" She said, "I want this. I want him to make more than me. I want da 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 da." And I was like, "Cool." I was like, "There's two things I'd really love for you to drop on that, if you're open to it from a guy's perspective." She's like, "What is that?" I was like, "How much he makes and how old he is." Because the how much he makes. She makes a lot of money. Yeah. This woman, right? Works for like one of the biggest design, what are those design firms or something like that, and on the mainland, it just crushes it. I'm like, you're reserving yourself to a very finite amount of men. Totally. And if what you want to feel is protected and secure, you kind of already have that, because you already make really good money doing what you do. Yeah. And if he adds to that, double income, no kids, dink, that's great. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So drop that, because I think there's just so many incredible men out there that are real men that would provide a great relationship. Like my sister's husband is a firefighter. He's like 8 years younger than her. And the dude's an amazing dad to their 2 adopted kids. An incredible husband, super committed, loyal, growth-oriented, all the things. But she would have to let go of, if she had a big list, she would have had to let go of age and money, because there's a feeling, women by and large are like emotionally based, and there's a feeling that you want from these things. The list is there because we think it's a mechanism to get us the feeling that we want, right? Yeah. Like anything in life, right? Like I was analyzing my yearning to be a billionaire the other night, and I was like, why is it that I want to be a billionaire? In reality, it's I want to feel full freedom. I think it's going to make me feel more free, right? So obviously we can skip the needing to be a billionaire, become more free via exploring our edges and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And the cool thing I think about how all of this works is when we feel the way that we think we're going to feel when we get the thing, when we start feeling that now, then we end up just getting the thing, and it's not as meaningful or massive, right? Right. But with a guy, I think it's the same thing, or a partner. It's like, how do you want to feel with that man? Yeah. You probably want to feel secure. You want to feel like safe. Yeah. You don't need the guy to make a whole bunch of money to feel safe. Totally. Probably just need a guy who's like there for you emotionally and is like stable and is like the banks of the river to your water and all that kind of stuff. Driven and motivated, like not late, as long as they have those qualities. Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And that's where I think like putting all your eggs in one basket in like the dating app is like where I'm going to find my person is limiting, because you only like, I really think you miss out on people that you would likely have chemistry with, because and I'm speaking for myself, like I'm sure I've X'd people that I would probably have gotten along with quite nicely. When we open up about the stuff that is so meaningful to us, that like makes us tick, it makes us who we are, those are the things that give the woman the opportunity to fall in love with us. So it's like, so on those dates, whether it's a dating app date or whatever, and if it's a plumber or whatever it is, and you can, I think if I was a woman, I wanted to, find my person, even in the conversation that we're having, the banter, first of all, you need to realize how nervous that guy is, right? Again, the reason I said that, like I have, decent access to women, I get fucking terrified. On a first date? Often just the banter on a dating app. Really? I'm telling you, we're afraid of rejection. Yes, and in my mind, I have to tell myself, bring the logic and be like, Taylor, she's single, she's on a dating app, she matched with you, she's not on here to entertain herself, she's on here to go on dates, just ask her out. Yeah. I had to do that for the first many, many, many times on a dating app to really get to the point and ask, because we're scared to ask out, because we're scared to get rejected.
Interesting.
So even if, even in your conversation, rather than just like, hi, and just like waiting for him to say something, you could ask him like, what's the most important thing to you in your life right now? Or what is something that you find vulnerable to share or whatever? And if he can open that up, especially someone like you who wants that emotional depth, right? You could start to build feelings and a connection with someone even before the first date.
Yeah.
And then when you're on the first date, don't ask them if they've got how many siblings they have, where they grew up. None of that is going to make you fall in love with them.
Totally.
Right? Skip right to it. Like, what's your worst memory from childhood? A guy sharing something that open and vulnerable about him, like something that shaped who he is an opportunity to fall in love with a guy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good stuff. And I like to think that I like can go to those places, but even I also like mirror and reflect energy. Yeah, you do. And I think like you admitting that like men are really nervous.
Oh yeah.
I just on Friday night, this past Friday, so a few days ago, had somebody, I was driving to the brewery to meet this guy, first date, and which is only a few minutes from my house. As he had already asked me like, hey, do you think I can park in this lot? So he was already there. Yeah. And then as I'm driving there, he says, hey, I'm so sorry, I'm not going to make it. And I was like, what? I'm pretty positive. And he had this like full excuse. Like, I'm just like really burnt out from work. It was a really long day. I have to be up at 4 a.m. I'm so sorry. It was that.
Sure.
But I really think, and I didn't push it because I was honestly like, done. That's fine. And my friends happened to be also, they were at the brewery, literally waiting to like stalk me on this first date. Oh, so it ended up working out. Women are
so funny.
It was two guys and a girl. It was this is my cousin though. He was
I'd
ready to watch. Yeah, they were so excited. Yeah. They were actually bummed that it didn't happen, but that actually like makes sense. I think like he genuinely like was nervous and was like, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe was tired or whatever, but that's something that like I hadn't picked up on. Yeah. And I think like, because I'm feeding off, back to like the point is I'm feeding off of people's energy when I'm on a date. So I don't necessarily like go to all the places that like where I feel super comfortable just having a conversation with you. Like we can go to the depths. Yeah. Way easier because there isn't that like pressure or that like nervous energy there that, I think so for anyone listening, like ask those questions. That is super important because that's the stuff we actually care about.
Well, you said before we started filming that I said, where do you meet people that end up wanting to work with you as their coach? Right? Yeah. And you were saying you meet a lot of people through social media. Yeah. And you said the videos that draw people to you that want you to be their person, their guide, their coach, right? Yeah. Are the ones where you're super vulnerable. Yeah. It's like that. That's a mini falling in love. That's like so much trust is built in that. Totally. And for a woman, I've been not a woman, so I'm guessing here, but based on what I've seen, for a woman to fall in love with a man, she needs to trust him. Yeah. Right? And so if he's being really vulnerable, it's giving you an opportunity to trust him, to feel safe with him, to feel like, okay, this is a real human being. Let your guard down a little bit. And then you can fall in love with them, right? Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I would love for women to know how nervous we get as men, and how, I've got a buddy who, do we go down this road? I said, yeah, let's go down this road. So I asked him, real quick backstory. Okay, so him and I were in an RV, we're at Burning Man, we're both high on acid, and I'm like, dude, you got to get on TikTok. Okay, I'm doing my whole TikTok spiel. And I was like, it's gold, you got to get on there. And he's like, I don't know, whatever. And I'm trying to convince him to make TikTok videos about sexuality, right? Because he loves talking about sexuality. He just loves it. It's his thing, men's sexuality. And really good looking guy, and just like a specimen of a human being, great shape, handsome, good on camera. And I'm like, you're just TikTok gold. You got to be talking about this stuff. I said, here's your unfair advantage. Let's talk about that. I was like, you're good looking, and so people want to watch you, and you got a great voice and a good presence. I said, how many women have you been with, been intimate with in your life? He goes, I don't know. I said, well, probably like what? I'm guessing like 200 or something. He goes, way more. I'm like,
I know who you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about? We got to give him a shout out. I mean, he's fine. After we tell the story. And he goes, I said, whoa, okay, cool. Like what, like 500? Way more. I'm like, what? Way more? And I'm like Rain Man doing the calculations in my head. You know
Yeah, you
that
love
scene?
spreadsheets.
They're just
You're
like going in
math.
my head. I'm like, so this is this many per year, this many per week. Like,
How old are you?
How long have you been sexually active for? You know, have you been in relationships? I'm minusing that time off. And I'm like, how many? And he goes, it's like more like 1,000. I said, 1,000? Like, you've had sex with 1,000 women? And he goes, yeah, about that. I'm like, okay. Wow. I'm like, you need to get on TikTok because you've had like more sex than 99.99999% of men on the planet.
Yeah.
Therefore, you have so much data that you could share with people.
Data.
Right? So much data points. So many data points on sexuality. And long story short, his name is Jackson Hightower. You should watch him on TikTok.
He's great.
It's
Or on
Natural
Instagram.
Jackson.
And
Instagram, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It's Natural Jackson. Get Natural Jackson, one of those ones. Type in Natural Jackson, you'll find him.
Yeah.
But,
I love his videos. They're so informative. They're
Yep.
so good. I really enjoy all of them.
Yep. He's talking about the A spot, the G spot, the da-da-da-da, all the things.
Yeah. He talks about like men and women. He says like, I
Yep.
asked my girlfriends this. I asked my guy for like, he covers all the bases.
Dude's brilliant.
Yeah.
Oh, right. That's why I introduced you guys. Like, you should be on the
It's a podcast. Yeah.
So
we're trying to nail that in.
the whole point of that context is that, so this gentleman who's been with 1,000 women, he gets nervous. He gets in his head.
Before a first date.
Before anything, we all
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
It could be before a first date. If we're excited, if there's that potential of like, oh, this could be my person. And we had a chat the other day. I was riding my bike with Leo and I was chatting with Jackson, and he's like telling me about this woman. He's like, what should I say to her? And like, I don't know, should we talk about this stuff or whatever? And I'm trying to like, you know, guide my buddy who's like the expert at females.
Yeah.
Through a interaction with a woman. And so I'm just using that as like an example, like an extreme example of like this guy who you would not think is going to be nervous about anything, gets nervous.
Yeah.
And so for women to know that if that guy does, the other guy who's, you know, just going on a first date with you, he's probably pretty nervous.
Yeah.
Right? If he's excited about it, he's really nervous. And so creating this space and a lot of women say such bullshit like, well, he should be confident enough to da-da-da, or he should feel good enough in himself to blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, like we're human beings, right?
Yeah.
He said weird shit happened to him in his life. You've had weird shit happen to you. If you guys can come together with the intention of making each other feel comfortable so that you can have like really open, honest conversation. And I remember seeing this kind of thread and a bunch of stuff on social media talking about a man will optimize for a woman that gives him calm, that gives him peace. Right. So if he's on a date with a woman and he feels calm with her, that he can genuinely open up, then he's projecting that into his future of like, oh, I can come home and it's going to be a place of calm. It's not going to be super nervous and you know, sporadic, weird energy. If he can get calm and nurturing from that person, like we'll optimize for that every day of the week.
Yeah, I have sort of an extreme example of that. The first date I ever went on, because I like to ask questions, I'm like genuinely curious. And I think that naturally brings a sense of calm that like allows...
First date since being single from your marriage?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And first like online date, like, you know, actually coordinated a date. And he left, I think, painted our future together. Because when I like sat with it, I decided like, I don't really see this going anywhere. And I canceled our second date. Freaked out. Like,
you said, I remember this.
He like actually freaked out on me. And I would he would randomly send me text messages and just like went a little bit hard. But I think like in his defense, like having a little bit of compassion as I tried to, he felt that sense of like peace and calm and like felt seen by me because I was genuinely like asking, and I did care.
You're such a good question asker.
I like to ask questions, but that can, I think, also come across as like, this person like really likes, this person's really interested, even though I'm just genuinely like a curious person and I want to get to know you. So
So tell me this, what is it that would make you, what do you think would make you fall in love with a man?
Ooh, that's a good question. The biggest thing for me, and this has come from like a lot of self-reflection and processing, is I have a deep sense and need to be seen, to like really be seen and like accepted in like all of me. And that is some like, you know, it's a dance when you're in a relationship, but I, you know, am coming off of a 13-year relationship with somebody where I felt very unseen towards the end. And, you know, I have some specific examples of that, but it's not like a blame game of like, you didn't make me feel seen. It was a dance that we did back and forth together where like I was avoidant, he was avoidant, we'd both pull away and we would both feel unseen. But like walking away from that relationship, I now know that like that is a core need for me to feel seen.
So how would a man make you feel seen?
It's like little things, like paying attention, like listening. So listening is super important because one, I'm a really good listener. Like I pay attention to that stuff. Like if we were having a conversation, like you brought chocolate. I now know that type of chocolate, you love that type of chocolate. I've bookmarked that in my mind because I also love gift giving. So I pocket those pieces of information. I'm paying attention to that stuff with people I care about. And it's not just in a romantic partnership. This is friendships, family, everyone. And I think because I do that so naturally, I also look for that in other people. Like I love coffee, like just little things, like things that I love. Like if somebody paid attention to that stuff and showed up with like, they just recognize that like I like iced lattes and they randomly like got me one. That would be huge. That would go so far for me, like little things like that.
Oh, you're such a teddy bear. Sweetheart.
Teddy bear? Why does that mean?
That's so nice.
Why?
Because I could just see you melting over that little stuff.
Yeah, it would. It would go a really, really long way. I mean, also there's like that's like the wholesome stuff. There's like other stuff.
Oh,
too.
tell us more.
The sexual stuff is like I really want somebody that is like will help me push edges because.
What's an edge for you?
I mean, I still have never had a threesome.
Yeah.
Like that's an edge.
Okay.
That's I think what I've recognized is like I'm curious. I thought maybe I wanted to date women, and I recognize that like I actually don't. I love men. I love that masculine energy. Yeah. But I am more curious like in the bedroom.
So the threesome would be a woman.
That would be an edge. That would be like a woman and a man.
That would be your ideal threesome.
Yeah, I think it would be a little.
Have you gone to Burning Man before?
I have not.
Dude, you should come to Burning Man.
I know.
That stuff
You're like there's threesomes all over the place.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think going to Burning Man. For anyone who hasn't been, they kind of roll their eyes and go, "Oh, what? It's a big festival in the desert." You got no fucking idea what it is until you go.
Oh, for sure.
It's mind blowing.
No, it looks amazing. I would love it.
Yeah, unlike any experience I've had in my life, and I've been there a bunch of times. And I think the first time I went was like 10 years ago or 11 years ago, and it's the most hope that I've ever had for humanity because because it's so free and open and thinking drastically outside the box, and the thought process of people will put 2-3 years worth of work for one Burning Man. Like people that are building the temple 2-3 years in advance of the time that it's actually going to get used for 1 week and then burned in front of everybody, right?
Yeah.
And so anyways, the reason I bring that up is like, imagine that was our experience in, from burners call this like the default world that we're in right now. In the default world, imagine that was our experience where things were so free and open that you could have a chat with a couple or whomever, a couple people, and just go like, yeah, this is an experience that I'd really love to have. Yeah. And they could go, yeah, we can make that happen. Let's do that tonight. Yeah. And you could, what would that be like if you could explore all of these pieces like in real time without them having so much, oh no, it's a threesome or it's like something different than missionary stomach on stomach, lay down mission. What do you know what I mean? Yeah. Without the judgment or the shame. Yeah. I'd be so curious as to know like what is the life that we would be living if none of that, if there was no shame? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I want to live in a world that is way more free. And you and I have talked about this. Like, we're not sending our children to traditional school because I really think that burns the magic out of kids and it causes a lot of trauma. Yeah. And I mean, there's some beautiful parts to it. I'm not like fully knocking on school, but like sitting at a desk all day, every day, being forced to memorize, obey, and like regurgitate things from a textbook. It's like, it's wild to me that people are
spending a lot of money to send their children down that path. And I really want to do things differently because I want my daughter to grow up feeling as free and connected to who she is as she possibly can. I had to unlearn and unpack like it happened to me in my 30s. And when I became a mom was when that full like death rebirth season happened for me. I don't want that for my child. I really want her to like live in a world where she's not carrying a ton of guilt and shame, where she feels free voicing some of this stuff. I didn't start talking openly about like how my sexuality until a few years ago. Like this is still super fresh and new for me. And I think, I mean, because I work with women and a lot of the women I work with are battling the same things and they're carrying a lot of these, they're like stuck in those same like thoughts, cycles, patterns where they have to keep their wants, needs, and desires small. And I really think that like that's changing and shifting in a big way, but like, I mean, obviously not as much as Burning Man, like that's an extreme, but like, how can we, I really now like want to surround myself with people that are just more open to these conversations, that aren't like listening to this feeling so much judgment by the fact that like I said that I want to have a threesome, you know, that like we don't have to keep all of that in the closet anymore.
Exactly. I mean, keeping it in the closet and all that, that's what gives it power. That's what gives it the shame, keeping things in the shadow. That's like that stuff's going to come out at some point.
Totally.
Right? And as we try to project this image of, I'm the straight and narrow and I'm whatever, this is what I'm into and nothing to see here kind of thing, when in the background there's this festering of something that shouldn't really have much power, but it gets more and more power. It comes out in all these like really weird kind of chaotic ways. Yeah. I think where it could be like an anger outburst, or again, like that much percentage of guys watching, or maybe the percentages of guys that are addicted to porn. I don't know what the stat is there, but I mean, Jackson was saying some sort of a stat that like it was 40% of men are addicted to porn. Wow. Meaning they think they watch it every time they self-pleasure. Wow. Yeah. That makes sense. That's crazy. That's wild. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Anyways, and I think it's because of the shame around sexuality. It's the shame around. Yeah. I was at this men's retreat like a week ago, and there was this really interesting exercise that they did where I thought it was pretty funny. We'd done a bunch of different stuff, and so you got pictures like probably 20 of us, I think. No, 16, that's right. 16 of us men. We're all sitting in this circle in like this big living room, fireplace and stuff like that. And the facilitator, Andrew, this is a Junto retreat, it's called. Andrew Horn puts them on. It was amazing. And all these people sit in the circle and all these guys, and we're writing down all the things that we're shameful of, all the things we're ashamed of in our life. And so we write all this big list, and we've written a bunch of different lists during the thing, but this is all about shame. And so all the things that we feel shame for. And at the end of it, Andrew said, okay, rip that out of your book. And so I'm thinking we're going to burn them or something like that. Yeah. He goes, now flip it over. He's write your name on it. Write the name on it. And then he goes and collects them all. I'm like, oh, this is this is a twist. Like, now you have all of our most vulnerable stuff with our name on it in front of you. And he goes, okay, now everybody close your eyes. And so we close our eyes. And he then persists to, one by one, he doesn't say the name. He like mixes them all up. And then he will pull one out and he reads off a bunch of the stuff that we've written. We have no idea who's writing them, right? Yeah. So it is anonymous to a certain extent. It's obviously someone in the room, but he reads these things out. And the things that this room of men were ashamed of it was one of the most freeing experiences that I've had in my adult life of listening to what other guys are going through, the battles that they're facing in their heads that they don't tell anyone else about, the things that they're ashamed of that they've never said to anyone, and it's now getting voiced to everybody else. And so all of us get to listen to 16 men's or 15 other men's shame list, right? And realize that ours are so common, right? And the one that stood out to me the most was sexual shame. That guys felt so ashamed of what they wanted sexually and what they desired. And so it just reminded me, I was like, oh yeah, all of this exploration and work that I've done via the sexual realm is very atypical, right? It's not like the normal experience. And so I can't think of anything that I haven't like owned sexually that I want or yearn for. I can't think of anything.
Yeah.
Right. Yet the experience of the vast majority of men in this case is that there's a whole bunch of stuff that they want that they will never tell anyone that they want. Right. Even though, just like that situation that I had in stepping in the circle and stepping out of the circle at ISTA, even though chances are what they want is actually in alignment with what a lot of other people want.
Yeah.
Right? They would be the perfect reciprocal for someone who wants that type of energy in their experience. And what I've experienced lately, especially being in this relationship with Savannah, is like, once I get the chance to own something, like to bring something into the light that I'm ashamed of, it loses all its power, right? It ends up being way smaller than I thought in the first place.
Yeah.
And then she can go, oh yeah, that's cool, got it, next. And I'm like, wait, what? I thought that was a big deal. You know, I thought it was something that I've been holding on to for a long time. And then we can kind of move on. And it's like, you can have these like massive trauma releases or massive growth experiences simply by bringing something into the light that was in the dark to someone who is an accepting, open person.
Yeah.
Right. Like I can't think of anything that someone could say to you based on what I know of you. Like someone could say to you where you'd be like, oh, I can't believe you want that, or something like that.
Yeah.
You know, you'd just be a wide open, accepting human.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Same thing for me. I've had some people tell me some stuff that is like, most people look at it as like, whoa, really intense. And it never phases them. I'm just like, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, you're a human. You got some interesting kinks and stuff like that.
Yeah. It's honestly one of like the things that I love most about you though, is like, I feel like I could bring anything to the table here and you would receive it openly without judgment. And that's like a beautiful quality to have because you are open, you are curious. Like you've also been through your own stuff and you're not holding on to it the way a lot of people are, which is where the shame and the judgment and all of those like thoughts really ruminate. I would love to know, I mean, we could go on forever and ever, but to like wrap up this little chat that we've just had around dating specifically, even though we've gone to the depths of many places, which I love, is what would you say is like the biggest lesson you've learned about yourself through like dating within the last couple of years?
I mean, I've learned just like how terrified I am. You know, how terrified.
Of what, commitment?
Here's something that I haven't voiced, so it's going to come out, you know, maybe a bit garbled, but I think that the choices that I make, I'll say, and that we make in our lives, whether it's to do with business or relationship or whatever in our lives, perfectly reflect the set point of our nervous systems. Right? So if we are used to feeling nervous and anxious, we're going to unconsciously pick circumstances in our life that continue that feeling. So it's very uncomfortable for me in the relationship that I'm in now. It's also very new. It's very uncomfortable for me how easy it is. Right? And it's like, and the same thing in business. I always got to be working. I always got to be grinding. I always got to be like in it. That's how you get successful, whatever. And the shifting from kind of anxiety or nervousness to spaciousness is a really, really challenging shift, right? Even though you think, well, that sounds nice. Going to spaciousness sounds really nice. Like I coach a lot of people on like building their businesses, and I could get someone to making 50, 100 grand a month within 3 months, 6 months, as long as they do what I tell them to do. Simple, easy, every day of the week. The thing that I can't get people to do is be spacious and allow it to be easy. They're perpetually wanting to fill the space that they now have because my shit is so efficient and dialed. They now have a whole bunch of space in their life. They now are trying to fill it with all the stuff that's going to just make them as nervous as they're used to being. Right? So in dating, I found the same thing. I would hear from people saying like, you know, pick a partner that calms your nervous system, not jacks it up. And I remember being like, I don't know what that would be like, you know? And so I think that the work is on allowing ourselves to experience greater and greater levels of ease and comfort and love, right? You ever read that book, The Big Leap?
No.
No. Oh my God, you haven't read that?
No.
Jeez. Okay,
I
you're
need
gonna
to.
love it.
Okay.
You're gonna love it.
Who's this by?
By
Do you know?
Gay Hendricks.
Okay.
And it's amazing. So Gay Hendricks writes this book called The Big Leap. And the big leap is going from your zone of excellence to your zone of genius, right? So the zone of competence, there's stuff like my zone of competence would be like turning the camera on and setting this stuff up. Like I'm not that good at it, but I know I can do it enough, right?
Yeah.
Zone of excellence might be, I don't know, being the head of sales at my company. Really good at it, right? Like I get some good results and all that kind of stuff, but it would burn me out. I get tired doing it. It's not something that I feel like timelessness.
Yeah.
And then my zone of genius would be like creating content and strategizing for the company. That's where like time stands still for me. And I just love it so much, and analyzing data for some reason. I just, these are things that I just love.
Yeah.
And so Gay Hendricks, his hypothesis is that the only problem that we have to overcome is our ability to experience greater levels of happiness. Right. And the reason people stay in their zone of excellence is because it's hard for them to accept they can make money doing stuff that they absolutely love. Right. Or in relationship, we all have this like internal subconscious thermometer or thermostat of how much good we can take. Right. So let's say you and I are in a relationship and we film a rad podcast together and we, have great sex and all this stuff and everything's going great. If it's above my normal threshold of what I can stand in goodness, I will subconsciously start a fight with you to bring it back down.
To where you're comfortable.
To where it's, comfortable, which is a weird word to say. It's like where the set point is. It's actually not comfortable, right? And it's the same thing with fitness. It's like people will work out and stuff like that for a while, and as soon as they hit this subconscious threshold, they'll stop working out. They'll start eating a bit more like this, et cetera. Or if they go below a certain threshold of their thermostat, or they like for myself, if I drop under like 185 pounds, I start to feel skinny, right? And I find myself working out more and more and more. As soon as I hit 190, all of a sudden I'm not working out that much because that's just like my spot. And I look in the mirror, I'm like, nope, good. Don't need to work out today.
Yeah.
Right? But it's not even conscious. And so I think it's the same thing with dating. It's like if we could continually expand our level of enjoyment and the capacity to hold love and enjoyment in our relationships, then we can actually bring in the relationship that is actually going to keep us happy long term. That makes sense?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I love what you said if we can expand our capacity for love. I like that, like for everything. Yeah. I heard somebody say, Peter Crone, I don't know if you know Peter Crone,
great.
Phenomenal man, talk about living in love and not like in love with another person or in love with a material thing, just living, like embodying love and living in that way. And that like really, that just reminded me of what you said, expanding your capacity for love. Like if you can sit in that and constantly be thinking like, how can I grow this? Like this can get bigger. I can see it in like the smallest little simplest things if I choose to, whether that's a sunset or, it doesn't have to be a beautiful moment. It could be like pouring your coffee in the morning. Then like you are living in love, you are expanding that feeling, and the ripple effect for that is certainly a world that I want to live in.
Exactly. And then I think you want to wrap a bow on it. It's like, then if you're living in love and you're being all of the things and you're emoting that love, you're being love.
Yeah.
Sure, you can still be on a dating app if you want, but it's like that stuff is just magnetized to you.